Members, it's the appointed time, 10:45. We also have a quorum. I call to order the meeting of the panel on Manpower. The first agenda item is information papers issued since the last meeting. Since the last meeting, the Secretariat issued 2 information papers to members. They are set out in the latest agenda. The second agenda item is items for discussion at the next meeting. The Secretariat issued to members a list of outstandings for discussion, LC paper number CB brackets 11399/2025 brackets 01, and a list of follow-up actions, LC paper number CB brackets 11399/2025 brackets 02. The next regular meeting will be held at 10:45 on 14th of October, Tuesday. The administration proposed to discuss the 2 following items: measures to foster harmonious labor relations by the Labor Department and regulation of employment agencies. If members have no objections, we will discuss the 2 items. All right, moving on to the third agenda item, briefing by the Secretary for Labor and Welfare on the Chief Executive's 2025 policy address. I will now invite representatives from the administration to come inside the conference room. As this item is related to the policy address, all other LegCo members are invited to join the discussion of this item. The administration provided a paper. They have also included in their relevant papers the Chief Executive's 2025 policy address and the policy address supplement. Let me introduce the public officers in attendance today. Mr. Chris Sun, Secretary for Labor and Welfare, Ms. Alice Lau, Permanent Secretary for Labor and Welfare, Mr. Ho Kai-ming, Undersecretary for Labor and Welfare, Mr. Sam He, Commissioner for Labor, Mr. Andrew Deng, Deputy Secretary for Labor and Welfare Manpower, Mr. Raymond Ho, Deputy Commissioner for Labor Administration, Mr. Vincent Fong, Deputy Commissioner for Labor, Occupational Safety and Health, Ms. Anna Au, Acting Director, Hong Kong Talent Engage. Members who wish to speak, please press the Request to Speak button. I will first ask the Secretary to brief members on the paper provided by the administration. Thank you, Chair. I will take a few minutes to brief members on some of the major initiatives of the Labor and Welfare Bureau. There are some salient points. We will continue to trawl for talents and retain them. In the recent 2025 talent rankings, we have ranked 4th in the world, 1st in Asia. It really shows that we are taking the right direction in trawling for talents and retaining talents. Another issue of great concern is to support talents. The Hong Kong Talent Engage will continue to work with different partners and through different activities support talents. We will also reform the Employees Retraining Board. We will review its positioning and upgrade the board. We want to provide a skills-based training framework. We will continue to see if there's any room for improvement. If necessary, we will amend the relevant ordinance so that the Employees Retraining Board can leverage its functions. We are also ensuring priority for local workers in employment. The Chief Executive emphasized this. It is only through stringent procedures and it is found that the employers cannot engage enough labor that we will allow importation of labor. We will, in particular for 2 occupations, waiters and junior cooks, have some targeted measures. I will not go into details. We will, however, welcome questions from members on this. We also have the Re-employment Allowance Pilot Scheme. We have received very positive feedback. We have received 50,000 applications. 20,000 of them have already successfully sought employment. We will continue to work on this. For the reviewing of the statutory minimum wage rate, we will implement annual review this year in accordance with the formula agreed. We will soon submit the new legislative bill to amend the amounts for minimum wage rate. We also said in the policy address that we will protect digital platform workers. We will make sure to have their interests in work injury compensation met. We will submit legislative proposals to the panel for consideration soon, and in next year we will introduce a legislative bill. On FEPAS, we will extend the scheme, and we still have 34 courses, and the occupations will increase from 12 to 13. We will include hotel and tourism related courses, 2 of them. I will perhaps end my presentation here. We welcome questions from members. All right, I'll assign a 4-minute time limit. Questions and answers included. I'll read out the order in which members are going to speak. Mr. Shen Hailong, Mr. Xiu Kafai, Mr. Chao Xiu Chung, Dr. Amen Yu, Ms. Lillian Kwok, Mr. Lo Chung Hong, Mr. Kingsley Wong, Mr. Lai Tong Kwok, Ms. Doreen Kong, Mr. Michael Tian, and myself. Mr. Shen Hailong, please. Thank you, Chair. I would first like to declare I am the founding chairman for the Top Talent Services Association. I can see in the policy address, we are ranked 4th in the world in the World Talent Rankings and 1st in Asia. It shows the government has achieved great success in trolling for talents in the past few years. I have 2 questions. Being the first in Asia is not easy. We have risen through the rankings by 12 ranks, and we have seen in the policy address, say for the talent pool part, it is important to have a talent pool so as to make contributions to the economy. We also want them to be relatively young to tackle our persistent issue of having an aging population. Can you talk more about what are the government's plans for trolling for talents? I have some figures to share. I can see from 2023 to 2025, according to the government's figures, say for the Top Talent Pass scheme, we have 49,700 odd cases of application. In 2024, we had about 41,000 cases. In the first half of 2025, 16,000 odd. So we can see that there is a gradual decline by 17 to 18% per year. But now we have, say, 199 and 200 employment centers. And I am concerned that we have seen some great success. And the success is from the 2 years of efforts we had earlier. Are we slacking off? And then we will no longer be the first in Asia. Secretary, we continue to emphasize that we need to troll for and retain talents. We need enough talents to promote the development of the economy. We do not have specific measures for Top Talent Pass scheme or Quality Migrant Admission scheme in this year's policy address. It is because in the past 2 or 3 years, we already have a series of measures promulgated. We have multiple channels to admit talents to Hong Kong. At this stage, we have to work on what we have so that talents coming to Hong Kong can adjust to Hong Kong's lives and really develop their talents. And Mr. Sheng said he has observed a decline in the number of top talents admitted. I wouldn't be so worried because we do see the there is quite much popularity for the Top Talent Pass scheme earlier on, and we have seen a number of them renewing their visas, applying for extensions of stay. So I guess they know what they want, and we're trying to admit high quality talents if they think they have the capabilities, even though there may be a decline in the number of applicants. If we have more people staying in Hong Kong, it will still be good. We will pay close attention to the attention and make use of our talent policies to promote the development of the economy. Thank you. Mr. Xiu Ka-fai. I do appreciate the efforts made by the Labor and Welfare Bureau in talent policy. We have seen great growth in talent resources, and that has created impetus for growth of the economy. It really shows their efforts. I note that starting from September 2023, we can admit labor from the Greater Bay Area cities, and we have seen, starting from last year, we have the imported labor actually coming to Hong Kong. We have seen many people praise their work attitude and the quality of work. We have many SME bosses expressing appreciation, and we need that because we have an aging population. I would say this on behalf of my party. If we see some professions that see a high unemployment rate, there is definitely a need for adjustments to be made. However, I think we cannot take an across-the-board approach, especially with the F&B industry. We have heard feedback from the trade saying it is difficult to employ needed labor, and I want to ask for employers registering with the Labor Department saying they need to engage labor. How many are there? How many employees do they need? Why is it that it seems that there's a mismatch since there is an increasing unemployment rate in the trade? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Xu. With the enhanced supplementary labor scheme, the general principle of our government is that we need to ensure employment priority for local workers. We have a number of measures to achieve this target. To ensure employment priority for local workers, it is only when there is not enough worker still that one can import labor. The chief executive also said that we should be dynamic and accurate. We need to have regard to the circumstances. We cannot take an across-the-board approach. We do see at this critical juncture of economic transformation, some trades are doing better, some are not doing as well. So when we make adjustments, we do not make adjustments for the professions, we make adjustments for the particular occupations. One of them waiters, another of them junior cooks. It is out of the 200 odd occupations that the two occupations have the most labor imported. And under the enhanced supplementary labor scheme, we have approximately 32,000 of them imported. About half of them are in the F&B industry, and over half of them are in the two occupations, waiters and junior cooks. So, we think for these two occupations, we need to do more so as to ensure employment priority for local workers. One of the measures is to have the recruitment period extended from 4 to 6 weeks. And at least half a day of each week has to be made for employers' participation in an on-site job fair of the Labor Department. And we also implement a manning ratio requirement to have a 2-to-1 ratio, 2 local, 1 imported labor. And this not only applies to new applications, but renewal applications. So for one that has already engaged, has imported labor, they will need to adhere to this manning ratio requirement when they renew their arrangements. We want to do this in a more direct approach. Thank you.
Mr. Peter Chiu, Chairman asked the Secretary just now about the number of registration of employers engaging the Labor Department's help. So what's the number for that? Secretary, Chairman, yes, we do. I will invite the Commissioner to supplement on that in a moment's time. I understand that employment is a two-way process. The employer would like to employ an employee, and the employee would like to get employed. So it is a mutual choosing process. So what we are doing is to facilitate the process as much as possible so as to match the best party for each other. I will invite the Commissioner to supplement the figures. Yes, Mr. Peter Chiu's question is about why or how efficient is the matchmaking processes. Thank you, Secretary, and thank you, Mr. Peter Chiu. Now, the number of private job openings registered with the Labor Department is affected by the overall economic situation in Hong Kong. Now, by way of figures, in 2025, between January and August, the number of job openings in the private sector is 335,000, or rather 354,000 job openings registered with us. That's in the private sector. But the year-on-year change is on a decline. Now, in terms of job seeking or job placement registration, now as I've mentioned, between January and August 2025, the number of registrants, able-bodied job seekers, the number was 40,000. Now, concerning the breakdown of those figures, I can supplement the figures for the members concerning the year-on-year change after the meeting. We have been monitoring the trend as well as the overall trend in the larger markets. We have been monitoring the supply of labor so as to offer the most efficient matching services for employees and employers. But we do understand that the number of job vacancies and the supply of manpower varies trade by trade. So under the ESLS, we are focusing on trades with a gap in supply and demand. When local recruiters cannot hire local workers easily, then we will make use of the plan to supplement the manpower gap for the employer. Mr. Peter Chiu, please be brief. Commissioner, do you mean that there are 354,000 job openings waiting to be filled? No, I was referring to the figures or the number of registration each month between January and August 2025. Now, after the job is filled, the number would go down. So how many job openings are there waiting to be filled? I heard that there were 40,000 people looking for a job. So how many job openings are there to be filled? I don't have the breakdown at hand. I will supplement it after the meeting. Commissioner, you have heard Mr. Peter Chiu and the figures he wants. So please supplement some written figures for members' reference so that we have a clearer picture of the matching situation. Ms. Lillian Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. Following up on the previous questions, in terms of figures, I think we can do better. Now, you mentioned 354,000. We need a breakdown trade by trade to see which trade has the largest demand for manpower. And second, a lot of imported labor have come in, so have we filled all the job vacancies? If there is still a lot of unemployment in the market, then I think that's a situation we have to address. Now, there's one thing in the policy address that I was concerned about. That's about the Top Talent Pass Scheme and the QMAS, Quality Migrant Admission Scheme. Many talents have come to Hong Kong via the two schemes. So can we have a figure on which type of talents make up for the majority? For example, technical-related talents like AI and high-tech talents, and then engineering, what's the ratio, arts and culture? Do we have a general survey concerning the figures or types of talents? I ask this because I wanted distinctive figures from both schemes. For Top Talent Pass Scheme, I ask why didn't we list the National Arts Academy and other national bodies on the list? Because currently, graduates from these two national academies have to come to Hong Kong through QMAS. Now, we are trying to promote Chinese culture, but we are not including these national organizations in the Top Talent Pass Scheme. On the other hand, there are 5 overseas arts academies included on the list, but they are not the talents which are familiar with Chinese culture. So maybe we can improve the list. Now, about the gap, we need to have a detailed survey to assess what kind of technical talents we need in the future. We're developing the Northern Metropolis, so what is our greatest need? In developing Northern Metropolis, the greatest concern mentioned by employers is that there is simply no technical talent to be found in Hong Kong. Even if they come, they can't find or employ the relevant talents, and there are also other policy hurdles. They can't bring along their own talents from overseas. So are there other policies to address this hurdle? Now, thirdly, about sub-degree holders and high diploma graduates. Now, for non-local postgraduates, they can remain in Hong Kong to take up part-time jobs for a year's time. Now, for non-local sub-degree graduates or high diploma graduates, they are mostly technical talents. That's exactly the kind of talents we lack. However, after completing their study, they have to leave. And also, their qualifications attained in Hong Kong is not recognized in the mainland at present. So can we have more facilitation policy in these regards? Secretary, thank you. First, on the manpower gap, I will defer to the Commissioner for Labour. Thank you. According to the job vacancies figures tallied by the Labour Department, by trade, there are most job vacancies in financial services, real estate, and the services industry. Now, these sectors are thriving in Hong Kong at present. And also, they are closely followed by catering and hotel and accommodation. That's also reflected by the ESLS. Despite the challenges faced by caterers, and despite the higher unemployment rates in the industry, there is still a very great demand for manpower. So that explains the figures. And then import and export trade. It also reflects the scale of the relevant industry. So these are the main categories with the largest demand for imported labor. So again, if members are interested in the detailed figures, month by month or year-on-year change, we will supplement these figures after the meeting. Thank you. Concerning QMAS, TDPS, and also technical talents, I will defer the question to Ms. Alice Lau, Permanent Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. Member asked about the situation of employment of talents coming to Hong Kong via TDPS. Now, on entry, these talents need not be employed. So we can only get the information through the follow-up survey on renewal of visa. Now, according to our survey, most talents were engaged in trade and commerce, innovation technology, and financial services. So that's the job types of talents. Ms. Kwok also asked about the lack of technical talents. Indeed, that's a concern. By the end of last year, when we announced the 2028 manpower projection, the estimation was that by 2028, there will be a shortage of 180,000 workers in Hong Kong. 1/3 of them would be high-tech talents. But because of this gap, we have adjusted our talent policy to create a new pathway to import non-local students who are not degree holders but with specific skills. That's the Vocational Professional Submission Scheme, or VPAS. So we already have a policy in place to make up for that gap. Then concerning sub-degree, non-local sub-degree holders who cannot remain in Hong Kong to work, well, we draw a distinction on that. The talents we are targeting is mainly graduate or postgraduate degree holders. We will also focus on vocational talents. These are talents with working experience. So for particular trades with significant needs, starting from last year, 2024 to 5, for 4 years in a row, we have this scheme to allow VPAS students to remain in Hong Kong for 1 year to find a job. But the job they are employed in must be related to their discipline or the subjects they studied in the VTC. So this is a measure to plug the gap for technical talents. These are not necessarily degree holders. There is already a pathway. Thank you. Chairman, if I may, I was referring to the 8 UGC-funded universities. So besides VPAS, sub-degree or higher diploma graduates from the 8 universities are not allowed to work in Hong Kong after graduation. So please consider my suggestion. Thank you. Next, Ms. Frankie Ngan, Deputy Chairman. Thank you, Chair. I have 3 questions. First, what's the progress for hiring the director for Hong Kong Talent Engage? We need to have a director soon. Now, about manpower projection, back in 2023, the projection was based on trades. Now, in the policy address, the government said that the figures of imported labor hired by the supplementary labor scheme would depend on the projection. So will the manpower projection be adjusted so that it is based on the 20 trades under the ESLS? Now, back in 2023, the projection was calculated so that hotel accommodation was combined with catering. So there was not a distinction between waiters, junior cooks, and other jobs. So we need to have a more specific prediction on the manpower gap for specific trades. Now, in the supplements, there's a paragraph saying that households who are eligible for working family allowance would be given a time-limited cash allowance to encourage them to make a living on their own. So can the government tell us more about the specific of that cash allowance scheme? I think that's under the remit of the panel on welfare. But in terms of employment, I would like to know how much will the cash allowance be and how long will that last?
主席。
Secretary, thank you. Chair, thank you, Dr. An, for your questions. I will ask my colleague to supplement my answers later, but basically, Hong Kong Talent Engage, we have already completed recruitment exercise for a director. We will soon announce the person we engage. For manpower projections, we had a base year of 2023, and then it is to end, the cycle is to end in 2028 before we have a 10-year cycle. Now we have a 5-year cycle because we believe the findings will be more accurate. We will also have a midterm review. So 2026, we will be updating the findings of the 2023 manpower projections. The methodology will be the same as those for 2023. Otherwise, it wouldn't be an update. We would be updating the information on the different occupations. We have also specifically focused on the assessments using the basis of the 8 centers. I understand why Dr. An would want to have more details, but it is already quite hard to have the findings based on the professions. For non-technical positions, say waiters and junior cooks, they have great mobility in the occupations. It's unlike accountants and engineers. They will in general stay in that particular profession. For non-technical professions, there's often mobility. Say if one is no longer in the F&B industry, they may want to become a security guard or they may want to work in retail. So we have tried our best for the professions that we want to pay close attention to, such as those under the Enhanced Supplementary Labor Scheme. We have focused on those. I will now ask the Permanent Secretary to supplement my answers. Regarding what Dr. An said, the particular project, we have the intent of having households where their children have already grown up, they can work themselves, and they're still receiving CSSA. We want to provide them with cash incentives. So for those that have already left the CSSA net, but they are still receiving working family allowance, so they have already found jobs basically, and but they still have a household income that is lower than a certain level, so that they are still entitled to working family allowance. For the households in this stage of transition, say if they have already worked for 12 months, we will provide them with a fixed amount cash incentive to them to encourage them to continue to work for a certain number of hours, but they can still receive the working family allowance. We will consult the relevant panel before we implement the specific measures because we do want to get their feedback on this. At this stage, we do not have a target number of recipients. Thank you. Mr. Chow Siu Chung. Thank you, Chair. I want to ask some questions on what the Commissioner said when he replied to the questions asked by Mr. Shiu Ka-fai. It is said that there is a great mismatch. So we have many 140,000 odd people registering to say that they are seeking jobs. But then I think there is also a problem with employers not updating the Labor Department when they have hired someone for their vacancies. I think many of those in unemployment wouldn't register with the Labor Department saying that they're seeking for jobs, so there may be a discrepancy. And according to the 2025 March figures of the Census and Statistics Department, we have 4,800 odd vacancies in the F&B industry. It is 18% less than the year before, and the latest figures we can see there are 15,000 odd people in unemployment. So I think this is a more accurate survey figure, I would say. We have seen in the policy address many measures on encouraging employment. We have some new measures under the Enhanced Supplementary Labor Scheme. We need to definitely combat abuse. We also need to implement the manning ratio requirement for the 2 specific occupations. I think with the new calculation method, we should be able to ensure more locals are employed. So I just hope that the government can be a stringent gatekeeper in this regard. I have also some comments to make. We have heard during the delivery of the policy address or the forum that comes after, the chief executive said there should be dynamic assessments. And this is in line with the suggestion I made to the administration before. We need to make adjustments from time to time. Say, for the F&B industry, 3 years ago, we had very different assessments. And the importation of labor is based on manpower demand. If there is a change in manpower demand, we need to make adjustments. I know that the administration is now preparing for further manpower projections to be made, but they have a longer cycle. Can we have dynamic assessments that have a shorter cycle? So say we can just make use of the Census and Statistics Department figures on how many people are in unemployment, how many people are in employment in particular professions, so that we can have an objective basis for making some assessments. So for, say, importation of labor for a particular profession, based on such figures, we can suspend the arrangements and we can reactivate the arrangements when need be. Is that something the government can do? Thank you. Secretary. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chow. The Chief Executive said multiple times in the past few days, under the Enhanced Supplementary Labor Scheme, whether it is before or now, the general principle is to ensure employment parity for local workers. We also need to make sure employers who are compliant, who have done all they need to do for recruitment, who still cannot engage the number of workers they need, they can still import labor. We have made some adjustments in the past few months. Before, employers can submit applications whenever they wanted. Now we wouldn't accept a second application within 6 months. For the 2 occupations, waiters and junior cooks, on-site job fairs have to be held for these. Well, the employers have to take in these on-site job fairs, and the recruitment period will be extended from 4 to 6 weeks. Every week, the employer must attend an on-site job fair organized by the Labor Department. We are also tightening the manning ratio requirement. It shows people the determination of the government, and we are being flexible having regard to the local circumstances. We keep in close view of the changes in circumstances. We will try to go with these two major measures first to see how we can do, but the principle is to ensure employment priority for local workers. Thank you. Mr. Luk Chung Hong. The Chief Executive emphasized that there should be employment priority for local workers. There are some enhancement measures for particular occupations. We also have the local recruitment period extended from 4 to 6 weeks, but we have seen still in the market where imported workers took the places of local workers. We have also seen high unemployment rates for multiple professions, F&B industry, catering in the retail industry, etc. We have seen in recent TVB program where an employer was interviewed and they were quite honest. They said they are not dismissing the local workers. They are dismissing the local workers because they are incompetent. I think what they said is quite smart. Employers basically can use different excuses, saying that the local employee is not learning fast enough, and dismiss them. And then they just have to post a notice outside saying that they're hiring, and they wouldn't be seen as making an employee redundant. Before, when we talked about the principle, it should be the case that they should make the imported worker redundant first before they make a local worker redundant. And now employers are trying to excuse this by saying that the workers are not good, and they give pressure to the older workers to leave voluntarily, and say the boss may want to import labor at the medium income, which is probably lower than the income for local workers. I would assume they are not doing anything funny. They may be, but I would assume they are not. So if they are dismissing someone who is already quite risky, like they are going to lose their job soon, they may have a lower income. So in the end, we have a lower median income. We have also seen some media reports saying that there are not many cases where in the end, after referrals are made, employers engage workers referred by the Labor Department. It's less than 10%. We need to do more. We need to really have the government do more dynamic adjustments for importing labor. Can we also adjust the ratio from 2 to 1 to 3 to 1 or even 4 to 1? Thank you, Chair. Secretary. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Look. For the Enhanced Supplementary Labor Scheme, let me say again, it is important to ensure employment priority for local workers. This is the overarching principle. And we also said very clearly, if an employer, after they have imported worker, dismiss a local worker, once we have found that to be the case, we have administrative sanctions. And we have already seen there was a case that we conveyed this very message clearly. If you think you are treated unreasonably, the Labor Department will conduct an inquiry as soon as possible. But we have to be fair to the employer as well. But let me say this, we did see already a case, and we have imposed very harsh administrative sanctions. And we have, for many years, the wage under the Enhanced Supplementary Labor Scheme being the median income, and the salaries have to be deposited into the workers' accounts to make sure There is no reduction or deduction of any sort. We also conveyed to imported workers this because they work very hard for that income. We need to be fair to them. We have 33,000 imported workers under the supplementary labor scheme at the moment. Not counting the foreign domestic helpers, we have 3.4 million people in the labor force. So it's just 1% of the labor force. And we only have 1 to 150 in the median. So how will we have this be affected when there's such a small group? Every 6 months, we have the Census and Statistics Department conduct scientific analyses. We trust the Census and Statistics Department's figures because they are doing it for many years, and we have updates every 6 months, and we can see about 80% of the occupations have seen an increasing median income in the last update. So we can see workers basically benefiting from the development of the economy. We also have, say, for the two specific occupations, we have the recruitment period of 4 weeks. We have referred 5,000 cases, but it is, as the member said, the success rate, that is the locals who are willing to take the jobs, the success rate is just 10%. We ask for two specific occupations, waitress and junior cooks, for the employer to attend an on-site job fair every week. We believe that will provide greater assurance. We have started for about 8 days. So we have 42 employers taking part in the job fairs. We had 897 jobs. We had only 111 people coming for job interviews. So we hope unions can really spread this message for those looking for jobs as waiters and junior cooks and maybe other jobs. Please come to these on-site job fairs. If you know of any workers seeking employment, please have them come to the employment centers of the Labor Department. We already have employers waiting. We want to facilitate matching. Thank you.
議員
Next, Mr. Kingsley Wong. Thank you, Chairman. Now, concerning imported labor, two of my fellow colleagues have asked similar questions. I will not labor on the point. I have 3 inquiries. Now, we are concerned about employment situation and also occupational safety and health. We're going to have a very strong typhoon in 2 days' time, and I'm concerned about the work arrangements under extreme weather. Now, during black rainstorm signals or during typhoon, many catering premises, leisure premises, or even supermarkets continue to operate. That's not safe. Now, residents in housing estates, they can stay sheltered while reaching these premises. But the workers for these premises have to travel a long distance in extreme weather. And many of them have succumbed to injuries in accidents and need to be hospitalized. So I'm asking the government, how will you protect employees during extreme weathers like typhoon? Is the definition for specified persons too wide? The employer can designate a specified persons at any time. It is too flexible. So in the future, will the government change the system so that only the Commissioner for Labor can designate specified persons? We really need to protect workers who still need to come back to work during typhoon. Now, second, about compensation, the compensation mechanism for work injuries. So I applaud the government for addressing the the plight of platform workers. Now about the algorithm. The algorithm would decide the income of the delivery workers. Now, if we base the calculation on the median average of the algorithm, then we can reduce the number of accidents significantly, and we can protect the workers against accidents. So besides improving the protection, can we mandate the platforms to adjust the algorithm to protect the workers? Now, finally, retirements. There seems to be no new measures concerning retirements in the policy address. Now, about the MPF contribution ceiling, we have submitted our proposal to the government. I think the government has received a recommendation from the advisory committee. So when will this be implemented? Thank you. Secretary. Chairman, I thank Mr. Kingsley Wong for his questions. Now, this is a very timely question. Super Typhoon Ragaza is approaching Hong Kong. It will hit Hong Kong directly on Wednesday. So we have been reminding employers and employees to plan ahead. In terms of work arrangements, I will invite the Commissioner for Labour to repeat what our mechanism is in dealing with extreme weather. But in my opinion, to ask the Commissioner for Labour to designate specified persons may not be feasible. We all understand that in extreme weather, there are still some jobs that need to be done to keep the city running. Now, about digital platform for protection for digital platform workers, our focus is on setting a standard rate for compensation of work injuries for digital platform workers. If these workers are not employees of any company, they can still enjoy protection. I know algorithm is close to many members' hearts, but this is the most treasured property of many companies. It involves a lot of investments to develop the algorithm. It is very difficult for the government to intervene on this, but we have a tripartite platform. If any situations are identified, please reflect these problems to the tripartite committee. That's a platform for us to work together to address any issues. In terms of retirement protection, the MPFA will, in accordance with the statutory requirements, to submit a recommendation on the minimum or maximum contribution to the MPF schemes to the government. And after receiving the recommendation, we will consider them carefully. And about making MPF contribution on behalf of others, we are consulting the trade and we are conducting a study, and we will report to members in due course. I will defer to the Commissioner for work arrangements during extreme weather. As the Secretary has said, having the Commissioner for Labour to designate specified persons is unpractical, because even under typhoon, a lot of commercial activities are still ongoing, not to mention emergency services. Now, the operations of many trades are closely linked together. Now, of course, hospitals need to continue to provide service, but at the same time, ambulance men and other supporting staff of the hospital also need to attend work. These workers are not in emergency positions in the traditional sense, but their jobs are related to the operation of the hospital. So on the cusp of the upcoming super typhoon, we have urged employers and employees to make advance arrangements. including the situation the member has mentioned. That is, depending on the developments of the storm or typhoon, the employers may adjust the deployment of specified persons. So these arrangements should be part of the advanced discussion. Employers shouldn't just call an employee randomly and ask them to come back to work. That's not ideal. And if employers ask employees to report duty under severe weather for legitimate reasons, then the employer still has the responsibility to ensure that the working condition is safe and that there is a safe route to come back to work. Otherwise, the employers will have to bear legal liabilities, which may be very severe. That's a criminal offense with a very hefty fine. So in terms of work arrangements under extreme weather, the employers need to consider a lot of factors. For apparently high-risk operations, we strongly urged the employers to avoid these work processes during typhoon. For example, outdoor work on construction sites, operation of large machineries. These shouldn't continue under extreme weather unless there are very exceptional cases. When there are flooding or landslip, fallen trees and road blockage, we need to use heavy machineries to clear the blockage. But besides these, except for these exceptional circumstances, ordinary commercial activities involving heavy machineries should not continue. The employer shouldn't put their employees at risk. That may be fatal to employees, and also it may impose a very serious legal liability on the employers. So we will continue to enhance the mechanism and urge employers and employees to work out a plan in advance so that employees can stay safe in extreme weather. Mr. Lai Tong-kwok. Thank you, Chairman. The Top Talent Pass scheme is one of the major policy initiatives of this term of the government. And with the leadership of the Secretary for Labour and Welfare, we have received a lot of applications and a lot of talents have come. However, in society, there are still a lot of concerns on the issue. In paragraph 4 of the paper, it says that 55% of the talents applied for extension of stay after 2 years after the 2-year visa has expired. So among the 55% of these talents, what is the success rate? There were some media reports that some talents complained that on applying for their visa, the immigration department gave them a hard time. They were only granted a few months' stay. So I know the immigration department has an important task to gatekeep. If an applicant can provide a letter proving the salary or employment on entry, but they cannot prove that they are actually employed, I don't think any responsible officer would allow an extension of stay for 3 years. So I would like to hear from the Secretary. And please support your answers with some figures. 45% of the applicants did not apply for extension of stay, so I assume they have left Hong Kong. But we can't rule out that it is because they can't find a job in Hong Kong. So that's where the top talent engage comes in. The need to match these talents with jobs. So how have they been doing? Now, in terms of income, the median monthly salary of the talents is $40,000. Now, that's just a bit shy of the average income of $50,000 earned by professionals in Hong Kong. That's some 10% less, but the figure is still glittering. Now, 70% of the talents are under the age of 40. According to the CNSD, the population of Hong Kong between the age of 30 to 40 years, the average income was $29,000. So it seems that in terms of age, they earn higher than local people, but from a point of professionalism, they earn a bit lower than local professionals. So I agree, we need to have a breakdown on the job types of talents. So please tally a wider range of figures and make it more detailed. Because we need more information in order to enhance the Top Talents Pass scheme. Now finally, protection for digital platform workers. Now, like Mr. Kingsley Wong, I welcome the Secretary's decision to introduce a bill on that next year. Now, the digital platform workers referred to by the Secretary are just food delivery workers. But next year, we will have something new. That's drivers working for digital ride-hailing platforms. So I think the government should come up with a plan in advance. If the mechanism of online ride-hailing is working fine, we may need to extend the scheme.
主席啊，
Secretary, thank you, Chair. I will ask the Permanent Secretary to answer the question on Top Talent Pass scheme. I want to share with you some observations I have about the platform. We have seen, say, food delivery and delivery of goods. There are many platforms. We have seen them operating for a while, so we have already some information on them. Maybe on ride-hailing services, we can do that in the next stage. We can perhaps focus on what we already have much information on at the moment. Thank you. Permanent Secretary. Thank you. The member asked about the Top Talent Pass scheme actual success rates for renewal. We have category A 90%, category B and C 93%, so the average success rate is about 94%. I think we can interpret the information this way. We have those admitted under Top Talent Pass scheme. They have a good understanding of whether they will meet the renewal standards. So we have many of those applying for extension of stay being successful. We do understand what Mr. Lai said. Some individuals may not have their terms renewed for 2 or 3 years. Say if one is in category A, they need to have either a job or a business after coming to Hong Kong. If they have a business, the business probably just started. We will need to find out more whether in a year they can make contributions to the local economy still. It's really not the case that we won't accept renewals of these people, but then we do need more time to see what kind of contributions they can make, which is why we only renew their visas for a shorter term. We are trying to strike a balance here. The member also note that over half of those admitted under Top Talent Pass scheme are under 40. For category C, most of them are actually under 30. So it does help with the aging population situation in Hong Kong. The median salary is $40,000. For the general labor force in Hong Kong, it's actually about $20,000. So it's much higher than the median salary of Hong Kong. And a quarter of them are earning more than $80,000 per month. And we have the top 1% earning $300,000 or above. in general, people who have successfully applied for extension of stay, they earn quite a high salary. As for the top talents jobs, when we have more who have renewed, we should have more information. Thank you. Chair. Well, it is said 45% of them have not applied for an extension of stay. It may not be the case that they don't want to. It's probably because they do not have a job, as the members said. Has the talent engage helped them find jobs? Permanent Secretary. We can have talents work in different professions, so they may need different support, and the talent engage provides support in adjustment, integration. We have 90 odd partners providing support services in education and housing. We also provide some Cantonese training for those who have just arrived in Hong Kong. We also let them participate in volunteering activities to help them integrate in society. But of course, employment services will be the most important services. The Labor Department provides employment support to people, and the Talent Engage has also held some seminars and workshops. They have also asked some employers who are interested in hiring talents to hold specific job fairs, and we could see that there was quite positive feedback. We will continue with work in this regard. Thank you. Ms. Doreen Kong. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm not a member of the panel, but I think in the past year we have seen citizens attaching great importance to labor issues. With labor policy, I believe citizens are looking to have the unemployment rate reduced. We want to have more people in employment. We want people to be earning a higher salary. I have several questions, Chair, on the manpower projections. In terms of labor policy, the policy making is based on the manpower projections. There are two things that are quite important. We need to have a real-time situation information on employment. The figures have to be accurate. For manpower projections, we should also include multiple factors, economic and otherwise. And in general, we should have longer cycles for manpower projections. When we look at the Census and Statistics Department, we can see starting from 1972, we had manpower projections and we had a 5-year cycle. Starting from 1983, there was a pause, and then in 2003, we started the manpower projections, and it seems that we're doing manpower projections every 1 or 2 years. I'm not sure why it's done so frequently. So I want to ask, how accurate are the manpower projections? What are your criteria for when the manpower projections are to be conducted? I want to ask whether we need such short cycles. Do we have so much mobility in human resources in society? Thirdly, I do have reservations about the accuracy of manpower projections. So rather, should we do workforce strategies? We will still have a long-term human resource strategy rather than having specific measures at different times. We also have some arrangements to allow non-local students to take part in part-time jobs. How can we ensure this will not affect the chances for local students to take part-time jobs? I think without proper safeguards, I am worried that it will eventually cause an increase in the unemployment rate of youngsters. Now, for the Top Talent Pass scheme, we are admit talents, but then some have reservations that while we are importing talents, the talents may not be those needed by Hong Kong. It is said in the paper the top talents contribute directly to Hong Kong's economy some $34 billion per annum. It's about 1.2% of the local GDP. So we have 230,000 people for the development of tourism industry. It only contributes to 4.5% of the local GDP. For top talents, we have only taken not much time to engage them, and they are already making a 1.2% contribution. That's quite a lot. So how have you derived this figure of $34 billion? That's what I want to ask. Thank you. Secretary. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Kong, for your questions. For manpower projections, we had a 10-year cycle, and we mainly did desktop research. For the current term government, we attach great importance to the findings of manpower projections. We do think it is necessary to conduct the manpower projections, but we want to do them in 5-year cycles to enhance accuracy. We also have multiple occupations engaged in the compiling of manpower projections. We also have a breakdown according to the 8 centers positioning. We have a 5-year cycle. We do understand there may be changes within the 5 years, which is why when we did the manpower projections in 2023, we talked about how we're going to do a midterm update. But we will make use of the same methodology because it is an update after all. But it would help us tap the pulse of the economy. It is hard to say for sure how accurate the manpower projections are, but with policy making, we need to have data as the basis, and it is the case in different parts of the world that governments are trying to obtain as much information as possible. And I don't think anywhere can achieve 100% accuracy. But we must do something. We try to do our very best. As for non-technical professions, I mentioned earlier they have greater mobility. It is just a fact because they have a lower threshold for entry into the trades. So if one does not work in the F&B industry, they can work in retail. This is just a fact. But for, say, professionals, say for those studying medicine, they would in general have to go into medicine, whereas one who studied engineering would have to be an engineer. I think this applies to different parts of the world, not just Hong Kong. With forecasts, we need to expect some degree of mobility. We do have human resource planning in Hong Kong. Let me give you an example. We are helping people seeking a change in career to find jobs. This is what the Employees Retraining Board has been doing. It has been established for 30-odd years, and they have achieved great success. Before, they would help those with low to mid-tier skills. But in general, as we see an increase in the education level of the population, we would have the coverage expanded to include university graduates. We hope to do this with a review in the positioning of the Employees Retraining Board. We have for non-local undergraduate and postgraduate students, we allow them to take part-time jobs. We are doing this because we want to retain them upon graduation. If you don't let them work in Hong Kong on a part-time basis. They do not know Hong Kong enough in different aspects. We do not expect them to take part in full-time jobs because they are supposed to focus on academics. As for FIPAs, we do have very clear that this is an initiative taken up by the VTC, and the particular fields are those that we have a great demand for, where we do not have enough students taking the courses, say for ship manufacturing or aircraft maintenance. So with FIPAs, they can work in Hong Kong after they graduate, but they must work in the relevant professions. This should help us meet the manpower gap in the particular technical professions. As for the Top Talent Pass scheme, we said in our paper that they contribute to Hong Kong's economy some $34 billion per year, approximately 1.2% in local GDP. This is the assessment method that we always adopt for economic analyses. The tourism industry is only making a 4% contribution. That is because we have for top talents earning a much higher salary. So we need to understand there will be differences. Thank you.
Next, Mr. Michael Tian. Thank you, Chairman. Secretary. Recently, I've received an interview from a social media conductor. There were two guests along with me. So their opinion was there shouldn't be any hurdles to import labor. If an employer would like to import labor, you should let them do so because it's all free markets. And local labor is very expensive. Now, I responded in that we can't become too extreme on either ends. We have to strike a balance. So having said that, I support the labor importation scheme, but that must be a local recruitment process to prove that the employers have genuine difficulties in hiring workers. Has the employer met with referral candidates referred by the Labor Department? Has the employer interviewed the candidate seriously? And do you know why the employer did not hire the candidates in the end? So if all of these have been done, then we should allow the employer to employ imported labor. But even in the same trade, not all job types have a manpower shortage. For some positions, there are oversupply of manpower. So if you think we should continue with the supplementary labor scheme, then I would support you. But we have to calculate the number on a job-by-job basis. For some jobs, the manning ratio should be 2-to-1 or even higher. And you have to make the employers prove that they have genuine difficulties in local hiring. There are so many workers who have contributed their prime years to our economy. This is our social responsibility. If they are still willing to work, we should allow these aged workers to continue to contribute to the economy with adjusted working hours or salaries. So you have set a new manning ratio of 2-to-1 for the two job types. Now, I was approached by my constituency in Tuen Mun and Yulong that some local workers have been fired from their position as a waiter in restaurants. Now, waiter is one of the two job types which will get a new manning ratio. But my constituents is still not reassured. So some members mentioned that there should be a suspension mechanism for the supplementary labor scheme when the local unemployment level has reached a certain threshold. I think that is a very reasonable suggestion. But the chief executive has categorically rejected this proposal on a radio program. So my constituents said they are very disappointed that the CE refused to consider that. Now, rather than a suspension mechanism, can we have a mechanism which monitor each job type, not industry, but individual jobs in an industry? If there is a genuine difficulties in local hiring, then the manning ratio should be 2-to-1. If there is still difficulties in filling the jobs, then we can lower the ratio to 1-to-1. Now, on the other hand, if there are unemployments for local workers, we should adjust the manning ratio upwards to 3-to-1 or even 4-to-1. This adjustment mechanism would be better than a suspension mechanism or a circuit breaker mechanism because it's more flexible. A mechanism for adjusting the manning ratio should be more flexible. I know it would add to your work, but implementing this adjustment on a rolling basis should be better in catering the needs of all sides. Secretary. Chairman, the principle of the ESLS is clear. That is, we prioritize local employment. We are not giving a free rein to employers. Only after there is proven difficulties in local hiring can the employers import labor. So our principle is dynamic, precise, and catering to actual situation. We're not rigid and we are not deciding the figures by industries. Now, we have 200 job types, not industries, on the list of labor importation. So our adjustments this time around is based on job types. That is, we are changing the manning ratio for waiters and junior cooks. There are 32,000 workers under this scheme. Half of them are engaged in the catering sector. Among them, more than half of them work in waiter and junior cook positions. So targeting these two jobs with the most workers, we are implementing some enhancements. First, extending the period of local recruitment from 4 to 6 weeks, and during which the employer must once a week attend the on-site job fair. And second, the manning ratio requirements will be tightened. The 2-to-1 ratio will be based on each post under application, but not the entire company. And that's the same even for extension of employment. So for employers who have already hired a certain number of imported labor, they may have to hire more local workers to maintain the manning ratio. Otherwise, they will have to reduce the number of imported labor working for them. Now, about job matching. Now, for your constituents in New Territories West, there is an employment center nearby. So please take them to our employment center. We have a lot of job openings waiting to be filled. Now, starting from the 10th of September, we started local recruitment. In 8 weeks' time, there were 42 employers attending. There were 897 jobs available. But in fact, there were only 111 willing candidates. So there were more job openings than candidates. So I think your constituents need not worry because we have colleagues from the labor departments to monitor the entire process. So when there is a suitable job and when there is a suitable candidate, they can report duty immediately. We have a lot of such employment centers all over the city. So you can We would definitely help our constituents, but I was asked by my constituents if they still fail to get a job after attending these job fair, and there is not a suspension mechanism for importation of labor, what should we do? So that's why I told them I would suggest the government to adjust the manning ratio to 3:1 or even 4:1. But now you are taking a rather rigid approach. Please answer my question. Thank you, Chairman. Our stance is clear. We are not rigid. We are dynamic and we adjust according to actual situation. At this moment, we have adjusted the manning ratio to 2:1 according to role. In the past, we calculated based on the company itself. So there are other jobs with similar arrangements. No, so I'm suggesting that you should extend this mechanism to other jobs as well, not just the 2 positions in the catering sector. I'm speaking on behalf of my constituents. Now, real-time adjustment should be allowed. Manning ratios should be adjusted flexibly. For example, residential care home staffers, there is a genuine lack of new blood, so no one would oppose you to import more labor for the industry. So we have spent almost 10 minutes on this question. Any more replies? No, thank you. Next, Mr. Kwok Wai-keung. Thank you, Chairman. Concerning the ESLS enhancements or the higher threshold, the government has my gratitude. Thank you for listening to the trade union's suggestion, extending the local recruitment period from 4 weeks to 6 weeks, changing the 2:1 manning ratio requirements to each post on the application. So we welcome these changes. But we'd like to bring it to the Bureau's attention. It is more and more difficult to protect local employment. There are always some innovative methods to bypass your measures. Now, there are some cases, I don't know whether they are rare cases, but I hear them very often. Many employers hire a waiter to fill a manager's position. For the amount of salary paid for a waiter under the imported labor scheme, that would be equivalent to a manager's salary in the mainland. Similarly, some junior cooks are hired to fill the position of a senior cook. And sometimes the employers don't even need to lay off an employee. There are many methods to force the employee to resign themselves. For example, the employees will be given a very unreasonable work arrangement. So I wonder if the government is aware of these complaints. Do local employees know how to protect their interest? So I hope the law enforcement agency can step up inspection. Besides the mechanism itself, we need law enforcement to catch the rule breakers. Now, the major assets of many employees is their working experience and their years of service. However, the supplementary labor scheme is not fair for experienced and mature veterans, so we should offer more measures to protect the interests of experienced workers. Now, about the super typhoon on Wednesday, now the Secretary said that flexibility should be reserved for the trade to designate specified persons. Now, under the guidelines for working under extreme weather, there is a very stringent requirement for designating specified persons. So I think the government need to monitor how the rules are complied with. If all employees in a company are designated as specified persons and they all need to come back to work, that would be meaningless. Now, according to the guideline of work under extreme weather, for specified persons, they should be given extra allowance, and traffic allowance should be given to them if there is no dedicated transport arranged for them. However, many ordinary employees who have to report duty during typhoon, they are designated as specified persons, but they do not enjoy extra pay or extra traffic allowance. So will the government help them?
Secretary, thank you, Chair. I believe the member is referring to different topics, importation of labor or work in adverse weather. If the employers do not follow our requirements, there will be punishment. We will make sure employers comply with the relevant requirements. Say for the enhanced supplementary labor scheme, we will have the Labor Department conducting inspections. So say for waiters and junior cooks, they should only work as waiters and junior cooks. But then if one thinks they are doing more than that, you can report to us that it is the case because this is non-compliant. We do ask workers to rest assured. We have the Labor Department follow the rules set down. But we also need to be fair to the employers as well because many of them are compliant. I will now ask the Commissioner for Labor to supplement my answers. Thank you. We have some detailed recommendations for employers to follow, but we in the end have to refer to the contracts between employers and employees. It really depends on the nature of work. For designated staff, if they need to do certain work that requires them to work under adverse weather conditions, maybe in their contract they will have a higher pay, or whether there are specific facilitation arrangements implemented by the employer on this. We think with this we will have better foundations for the relationship between employers and employees. We often see disputes arising because there is no prior agreement on specific arrangements. But I think for adverse weather conditions in particular, this should not be the case because it happens so often that they should already have some arrangements set down. If anyone requires mediation services or other kinds of services provided by the Labor Department can provide assistance. Mr. Kok, we do know the F&B industry see a lot of restaurants closing. The unemployment rate is very high. If staff members ask what is going to happen with working under adverse weather conditions, it is unlikely the worker is going to get hired. Would the Commissioner suggest if there is no typhoon allowance at work at the moment, one can make a record and try to seek compensation in future? in adverse weather conditions or when there is a typhoon, the statutory rights of workers will not be affected, but how much protection there is, it would depend on the employment contracts. But I would agree with what Mr. Kwok Wai Keung said. If there is no specific arrangements set out in the contract in some unusual circumstances, there can be negotiations forming an agreement, forming the foundations of the employer-employee relationship. And once they have such information, we can definitely see this being a leverage in resolving labor disputes. Mr. Dennis Leung, we have seen in the policy address saying very clearly there should be employment priority for local workers and there will be efforts to combat abuse of the system with illegal workers. I also want to ask about occupational safety and health. We have recently an industrial accident involving an air conditioner maintenance worker. Apparently, that worker is not licensed. I want to ask the administration, because this is not touched on specifically in the policy address, how can the Labor Department in future do more in this area? So when employers, in this case a school, engages a maintenance worker, how can they make sure one is licensed? This worker in particular did not see problems maintaining the air conditioner. They were actually electrocuted. So how can we make sure they are licensed? We also know there are more accidents associated with certain trades. How can we do more in policy to prevent, say, falling from height? I have all along wanted to see there being more policy in this regard, but I think there's still not enough. We have seen more works projects making use of modular integrated construction technology. We have many operations that would involve the hoisting of components, and before we have seen many accidents associated with such operations. It was found before that the lack of safety measures was a major reason, but we have not seen the government really encouraging the industry to take more safety measures. How can we do more in education, publicity, or policy to really minimize the chance of accidents happening? Thank you. Secretary, I will ask Mr. Feng to answer this question. The questions. Thank you. Chair. For the case involving an air conditioner maintenance worker, they were not licensed as an electrician, so they should not be undertaking work relating to electricity because they are not qualified. And this is confirmed by the EMSD. The school in particular asked the worker to only conduct an inspection, and then they would arrange for maintenance to be done. Why the accident happened, we're still conducting an inquiry into it. We would urge firms or households to make sure the workers are licensed with the A license, license for electricians, so that they can do electricity related work, so that they will know to suspend power supply if needed, or they would be wearing additional protective equipment. Next, in work promoting occupational safety and health, we've done much. we have for, say, scaffolding safety. We do note for larger projects there may be multiple workers on the scaffoldings at any given time. We have been working with contractors and subcontractors to make sure there is coordination between the different tasks undertaken by workers to make sure there is no improper removal of anchorage structures. We have also seen developers and contractors developing new technologies to monitor operations, especially for the specific components. If there is removal of such components, there will be a warning. We are also working with relevant departments to see if there is any need to make adjustments to legislation and rules relating to relevant operations. We have also seen for particular works, in scaffolding works, they need to receive training qualifications, and that they need to receive certification for truss-out scaffoldings. They may need to take out insurance. We do have some concessions offered, it seems. For lifting operations, we are trying to make use of innovative technology. And the Development Bureau has been actively promoting the use of 4S Smart Site Safety System in the past year or two. The Smart Site Safety System would help with management of equipment and facilities in different locations. It can also prevent unauthorized access and alert relevant stakeholders that there is unauthorized access of personnel. With such technologies, we do see more accidents being prevented. Alright, the meeting is supposed to end at 12:45. If you wish to speak, please press the request to speak button soon. I will draw the line after Mr. Tommy Chung has spoken for time management. Mr. Tommy Chung, please. Thank you, Chair. I think we have some difficult times right now. I heard many members speak, and sometimes I want to play the recording to members. I have never heard a union representative speak in the past 40 years of their support to import labor. I have never heard them express support. We are only asked to increase salaries to meet the manpower gap. But I won't go into the details here. I can have more exchanges with the Secretary in due course. Mr. Shokafai said earlier that there is a 2-to-1 manning ratio. Basically, 2 locals have to be engaged before a worker can be imported, and it applies also to renewal applications. For those who have already applied, I think you should not implement the manning ratio requirement. I will now ask you to answer this question first. Thank you.
Secretary, I would defer the question to Commissioner. Commissioner, please. Now, the new measure is announced in the policy address, and it took effect on the very day. So those applications who are being processed would be subject to this requirement. But what about previous applications which has been processed? Or for those approvals which have been given, they will not change. Second question, there are some smaller catering premises. They don't have junior cooks. There are 2 senior cooks. But they will never hire junior cooks if there are already 2 veterans in the kitchen, and they only need one junior cook, is that allowed? Now, it would be easier for larger catering premises to meet demanding ratio, but it would be very difficult for small restaurants. Secretary, I'm aware of the situation raised by Mr. Tommy Zhang. Now, for manning ratio requirements based on each post, it means that if there are not 2 existing junior cooks in the restaurants, then you cannot hire someone outside Hong Kong to fill the position. That means you have to look for a junior cooks in Hong Kong. So for junior cooks and waiters, they take up the major percentage in the labor importation scheme. So for smaller establishments with less than 2 waiters or 2 junior cooks, then it is clear that they cannot apply for supplementary labor. They can only hire an employee locally. They would also lead to more job openings for local workers. May I continue, Chairman? There are lots of details which we need to clarify. There are lots of questions from the trade, and I have engaged in several private talks with the Secretary. So I think your direction is right. I myself will organize a seminar and invite representatives from the Labor Department to attend. Now, the tentative date is 11 a.m. on the 12th of October, but of course, that depends on the availability of your manpower. Now, second question, job fair at the Labor Department. Now, to be fair, I think you should set up a CCTV to monitor the whole process. Of course, that's for your internal purpose. Without a CCTV, without video recording, without a colleague present monitoring the situation, there is bound to be foul play. We have lots of CSSA recipients or people waiting to be allocated flags in the PRH estate. They still look for a job. So when you ask someone whether they would like to get employed, they would say yes because they want to keep the CSSA allowance. Now, several days ago, I attended a banquet to celebrate the National Day. Now, the employer interviewed 2 candidates above the one is above 60, one is about 30. So they hired the 60-year-old worker, but they did not report to duty. Then the employer hired the 30-year-old one, but the 30-year-old did not report to duty again because they were too lazy to come to work. So I hope the Labor Department can take a more balanced approach to gauge the actual willingness of the candidates to work. You need to see whether these candidates are really someone looking for work instead of just pretending. Secretary, we have a very robust regime and we are fair to employers and employees. We ensure that both parties are genuinely looking for employment. Now, from the figure, we can see that the employment situation in the catering sector is not so well because of different reasons like transformation of business and so on. But we will be dynamic to ensure prioritizing local employments for the catering sector. I'm the final member to speak. Now, the manning ratio for two job types have been adjusted under the ESLS. Well, the credit shouldn't just go to trade unions. There is a consensus that the unemployment situation in Hong Kong has gotten worse. So I hope the government will really take a dynamic approach to monitor the unemployment rate. If it climbs to 4%, then something has to be done. Now, the Secretary said that you will only review the ESLS in April next year. However, if the unemployment rate surges beyond 4% or even 78% for certain job types, will you conduct a review ahead of schedule? If there are certain trades with a lot of imported labor and a high employment rate for local workers, we should single them out for a review. The Labor Department is doing its best. There is job fair, and you would vet each application to see if the employer is genuine. But if there are more applications, I'm worried that there will not be sufficient manpower to vet each case. Now, if there is a ceiling for the number of imported labor, then we can take a better snapshot at the situation and see how the scheme affects local unemployment. Then you can save some manpower as well. Now, some say that there are only at most 100,000 imported labor working in Hong Kong, and that's not a lot. But actually, the figure is more than that. We have top talents, and we have their dependents, and also the non-local graduates who have studied in Hong Kong over the past few years, and also the ING and other general employment policy and other job types where importation of labor is allowed. The figure may rise to 300 or 400,000. The dependents of talents can also come to work in Hong Kong, and they may take jobs away. So can we have a more comprehensive picture? It is difficult to gauge the impact on the labor market imposed by dependents. There have been reports that dependents of top talents are employed in frontline catering jobs. So I think we need a study to see whether the dependents can fill up job vacancies in trades where we have genuine manpower shortage, or are they taking away jobs and adding to the competition in certain trades? Is there a comprehensive survey about the distribution of jobs taken by dependents of talents? Chairman, I thank the member for his questions. First, the ESLS. True, the review will only be completed in the first half next year. But we haven't been sitting on our hands. We have been conducting dynamic reviews and assessments on certain job types. That's why we have launched new measures for waiters and junior cooks to ensure local employment. Now, among the 26 job types, there are some jobs with chronic manpower shortage. For example, dishwashing. It's a tough job. Some 1,800 laborers have come to Hong Kong to take up the job, and for the laundry business, some 2,500 workers. Now, these are jobs where local workers are unlikely to apply for. So we are basing our decision on actual figures. We need to take a comprehensive view on the entire picture, but we can promise the member that the Chief Executive has directed us to take a dynamic approach So this is evidence in the adjustment to the demanding ratio for the two job types. This is how we are ensuring local employment. Now, talents are different from ordinary workers. Talents have high educational attainment, and some of them have professional expertise. Now, in Hong Kong, the unemployment rate for degree graduates is much lower than other groups, but we will still keep close tab on the changes. Now, spouses or dependents of top talents can take up different jobs. Now, the median income for dependents is $30,000. So it seems that it suggests that they are not working in the frontline industries. These are probably positions requiring certain level of expertise. But we will keep monitoring the situation. After all, this is something that we are all concerned about. So whether it is the manpower projection, and before launching our policy initiatives, we will ensure that we have the information to formulate appropriate policy to promote talent developments in Hong Kong. So all members have spoken. I think all members have spoken their hearts in relation to manpower policy of the government. So thank you, Secretary and your team. I urge the governments to continue to listen to members' views and enhance the measures. During the motion of thanks debate and other platforms, members can continue to express their views. Thank you for your attendance. Final item, AOB. There is no AOB. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.